Hey guys, Technomentary with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 8 and answering the question whether or not if it's worth buying in 2021. In this video, we're going to talk about the hardware, the software, and finally, to conclude the video, we're going to tell you guys if it's really worth buying this phone this year or not. So stay tuned. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of the newer phones or looking to get a discount, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section that we're providing you and hooking you guys up with some of the cheaper discounted iPhones that you can find and all of our unboxing video that we have done so far. So let's dive into today's video. In my hand, as you can see, is the iPhone 8 here that we have. Of course, along with the iPhone 8, you also have the iPhone 8 Plus that was released around the same time. So these phones were released back in September, October time period of 2017. So it's been quite over 3 years since the iPhone 8 lineup has been released. It's Apple's flagship phone, and it comes in four different colors. It comes in your basic silver, black, and then your space gray one, and then the product red one that we saw here with the 8 Plus here. And in terms of the storage, you're able to get it at the base model 64 gig, which around the time started at $699 price tag, and then upper in the higher model you're also able to get it at the 256 gig if you need a lot more storage, and that price started at around $849. So big jump, almost at $150 for the bigger storage. But this phone right now, the price has reduced drastically. You're able to actually get this phone probably under $300 or so. So make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. And so if we really talk about the phone, as you see, the build of the iPhone 8 introduced for the very first time the back glass here that you see. This is actually a glass bag. Before, it used to be aluminum frame on the iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus, and Apple decided to go with the glass, which also introduced wireless charging, so you can actually put this on a pad and get the wireless charging out of it. But the iPhone 8 itself doesn't have quite big of a battery. It's around around the 1800 mega. Around the mAh1, which gives about 13 hours of video playback compared to the newer lineup of the iPhone 12, which gives you around 17 hours of video playback, because those batteries are much bigger, and of course the spring and everything is bigger as well. As you see, the iPhone 8, the body itself still does have the rounded edge body, which Apple discontinued with the 12 model. If you see the iPhone 12 here, you'll see the body has been more square in terms of it's more edgy or versus the rounder edge, and it's much bigger in terms of the bezel that you have. Let's talk about the other factor of the iPhone 8 going into 2021. As you see, the phone, most of the newer phones are going into all full screen, where most Samsung and iPhones have a screen ratio around 80% or more, where the iPhone 7 is a smaller phone. It's a 4.7-inch screen size. So it's screen to body ratio, it's around low 60%, so almost a 20% difference. The phone itself does not have OLED compared to the newer iPhone lineup. The Pro lineups here, as you see, has OLED screen on it versus the Super Retina on the iPhone 8. So the screen technology has changed, hence why the newer lineup are quite expensive, especially the Pro model where you have the OLED, but not on the lower end ones, which does have LCD on it. So the Super Retina, along with that, Apple introduced this newer technology called True Tone. So what exactly is True Tone? It's a way for the phone to automatically adjust the lighting and the display brightness. As you see here, the True Tone option, which was not available, and it's able to automatically adapt the display based on the ambient lighting condition to make colors feel more consistent in different environments. Another way of saying that your phone screen looks much more realistic in terms of your environment that you're in. If you're in a low light setting, and you might see the adjustment, versus if you're in the highlights environment, the lighting will change as well. So as you see here, the screen itself, it looks pretty nice in terms of just the general Super Retina display that it has. Same with with the iPhone 8 Plus. They both have that Super Retina. Of course, the iPhone 8 Plus does have a bigger screen. And the other hardware built that you'll notice with the iPhone 8 is that it's the last generation of iPhone, the flagship phone that Apple still had the top notch and the physical Touch ID, which would starting with the iPhone 10, which came after that. There was no iPhone 9. The whole Touch ID was gone, was replaced with Face ID, which introduced the all body screen on it. So all the newer phones you'll see will have that full body. There's no physical home button. So if you miss the home button and still are trying to get a phone that has that, the iPhone 8 is one of that phone. Along with the iPhone 8, Apple actually introduced another very similar phone to the iPhone 8. Pretty shockingly, they released the iPhone SE second edition 2020 mid-year, almost a mid-cycle, where generally Apple released their flagship phone around the September-October timeframe. But in 2020, in April, they decided to release the SE 2020 edition, which kind of looks very similar to the iPhone 8. It's about the same size, same build and such. It's almost identical in terms of both of the phones. If you were to putting it side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell much of a difference because of the way they were built. And kind of this rumor going around is that the iPhone SE 2020 edition might just be, the iPhone 8 parts that were left over from the other phones and just rebranded to sell it at a much lower price. So the iPhone SE actually started at a price point of $399, and Apple branded it as having one of the fastest chips on the market. It had the Bionic 13 chip, which seemed to be very powerful for a phone, but the display itself was just LCD, and it had that similar build where it had one single dual camera lens like this one. As you see, the regular iPhone 8 only has one single 12 megapixel lens, versus if you're getting the 8 Plus, which has both dual lens camera. But that doesn't mean the iPhone camera is bad in any ways. This phone does take some really astonishingly beautiful photos. So if you're looking to do photography on it, it still up pretty well because you do have photography on it. The one thing you don't have is that portrait mode, which is available on the iPhone 8 Plus. So if you're a person looking to do portrait mode photography, you're not going to have that. But in terms of video, you're actually able to record up to 4K on this phone. So if you go into settings here, we'll take a look at the camera setting. And if you go into camera, you'll notice in the video recording section, you're able to go from 720 HD at 30 frames per second to all the way to 4K 60 frames per second, which if you're looking to record even YouTube videos, you're able to record YouTube videos at 4K, which is impressive. But of course, once you do record with higher resolution, you're going to be expecting to take more in terms of your storage. So that's usually what happens whenever you record with higher settings. Let's talk about the chip. We slightly mentioned that the iPhone SE does have a big faster chip that was kind of remodeled of the iPhone 8. The iPhone 8 does have an A11 Bionic chip, which is 25% faster than its previous generation of iPhone 7. And overall, we see even in 2021, the A11 chip, compared to the A14 chip, which is the most latest chip out there, is 3 generations behind, but it does still hold up pretty well in terms of our basic tests we did using some of the testing that we usually do around browsing, just general usability. As you see here, we're able to load up web pages pretty quick, even on a decent Wi-Fi and even on decent cellular network. You're not going to have any issues downloading apps, playing and opening up most of the apps in general. So that's another plus point of the phone, is that the chip is still pretty relevant in 2021. Also, it is 3 years old. Let's talk about a little bit of the software. So the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus both ship with iOS 11 out of the box. So if you were to open up a new iPhone 8, you're going to get iOS 11. But you're still able to update to iOS 14. iOS 14 is the latest version of iOS out there, and there's some pretty cool features, and pretty much you're able to take advantage of all the features such as back tap and everything iOS 14 is able to offer on the phone. Of course, you don't have Face ID because this phone is incapable of that, but most of the stuff that you're able to do on the iPhone 12 lineup, you're able to do on the iPhone 8 without any issue. So the software itself, we suspect, will still get the updates for at least another 2 years or so. So you're most likely going to see an iPhone 8 being able to get iOS 14, iOS 15, 16, and who knows, maybe 17, but it all depends on Apple's model. Even after the iPhone starts getting updates, is that Apple usually allows a lot of the apps to still run. So whenever the iOS gets updated, the softwares are updated, a lot of the apps start dropping support. But most of the iPhones we've seen, even if you have the iPhone 6, you're still able to run most of the popular apps on it, although you're not able to download some of the newer apps. Let's talk about the software now. We talked a lot about the hardware, and we really want to talk about the software in terms of the applications we have. As you see in our screen here, we're able to download pretty much all the apps out there because it's iOS 14. If you're using a phone for a lot of productivity stuff, for example, your banking, all of these banking apps, as you saw, Wells Fargo, Bank of America opens up without any issues. If you're using it for doing business stuff, maybe doing for video calls and chat, or using it for your class, all of that stuff, works simultaneously. It does have a 7 megapixel front camera, so the front camera does hold up well if you're using it for FaceTime, video chat, all of that, Zoom, all of that feature does do really well. And if you're looking to watch videos on YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus, all of that is pretty much supported on this phone. There's no issues with it, and as you see here, we're able to open up YouTube on the fly, and all of the graphics are loading up, even on Netflix. Although the only complaint about the iPhone 8 would be that 4.7 display is kind of small compared to the all screen body of the iPhone 12 lineup and the 8 Plus, which you'll see has a bigger display compared to some of the newer phones. So your display, in terms of comparing it to some of the newer Samsung and iPhones, is that display is small. But for someone looking for that has small hands, maybe a child or someone just that prefers the compact design of the iPhone 8, it's not a bad choice at all. Of course, the screen is tiny, but you're able to do a lot of that. And if you're using it for things such as social media, if you're using Facebook, Messenger, all of that stuff, pretty well supported, no issues. We haven't seen any issues in terms of the software itself as well, like TikTok, Instagram, all of the popular social media apps. There hasn't seemed to be any issues. So if you're concerned that this phone won't be able to hold up social media, don't worry about it. You're able to do all of your social media on the phone itself. Other apps like Venmo, if you're using it for transactions, all of that stuff works pretty instantly. As you see, we're able to open up all of these apps such as Yelp with no issues at all whatsoever. These apps run, and they run flawlessly, and you're able to do anything you would on a newer phone, because if you remember, the software itself is what determines the iPhone. That's the reason why people buy iPhone, is that it's unique software that keeps that stable running application from crashing, which we see on Android phones, sometimes app crashing here and there, but that's a different discussion. And if you're looking to do gaming, light gaming on the iPhone 8 is pretty possible, and it does a phenomenal job with your light gaming. So if you're using it for smaller games, less graphic heavy game, the one issue that you see is once you start playing heavier graphic games is when you'll notice that it might not hold up as well as a game that doesn't have much graphic going on. So those games like Fortnite that are meant to play on console, it does consume up the battery a bit quicker than some of the newer phones. That's because these phones, although they're meant to run most applications, heavier graphic game is where you're starting to see slight bit of lag, maybe not as optimal performance, but nonetheless still does work great. So to go ahead and answer the question whether or not the iPhone 8 is worth it or not, well, this question is more of what are you looking to do with the iPhone 8? And it's more of a yes or no question, answer at the same time to this question. So let's explain why that's the case. So why would this phone still be worth it? If you're a person that are looking to get into using an iPhone but don't want to spend a lot of money, this phone, if you're buying it pre-owned, you can probably get it around $250 to $300 and still get pretty much all the features that you get in terms of the software of one of the newer phones. So it might be a good starter phone, and if you're looking to use it for maybe the next 2 to 3 years, it's still going to be a relevant phone and you're not going to have issues. The camera, it's decent. It's not great as the triple lens camera, because of course three camera versus one, that's no brainer. You're going to have better quality, but the phone still does a phenomenal job for photography and video recording. They're able to record videos and all of that. The display itself might be a little bit smaller if you're looking to do a lot of gaming or even watching videos, and you prefer the bigger screen. But this is definitely a great starter phone and light users. But going in 2021, if you're looking to really max out in terms of your dollars spent, and you're trying to get one of the newer latest phone, you might be better off possibly getting the iPhone SE, the 2020 edition that we mentioned. That's pretty much the similar build. It's small, compact, and the starting point is around $399, and it does pack quite the punch because it does have an updated chip. Or if you're looking to really get the most out of it, you might be looking into getting one of the newer iPhones, such as the iPhone 12, which will last you another 6 or 7 years. So this phone easily will last you a couple more years, but do expect the iOS support to end sometime soon. So that's our answer, if the phone is worth it or not. Of course, you make your own decision in terms of what you're looking to do. Light users, definitely worth it. More heavy users might want to consider something newer. So a cheaper option, iPhone SE 2020 edition or the iPhone 12 lineup. So there you guys have it for our review of the iPhone 8 in 2021. Hopefully this video was helpful. If this video was helpful, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, we want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the iPhone 8 in 2021? Is it worth it or not? And what other questions or comments you guys have, leave it in the comments section. Would love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.